Hi, I'm Lee from Lee's Way or the Highway Math Tutoring. Welcome today to Lesson 1 of graphing a point on a Cartesian plane. Now, what's a Cartesian plane? Okay, well, I'm going to explain that. It has 4 quadrants. It's got 2 axes, and it's 2-dimensional. Boy, that sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? Well, we're going to break it down. So we'll start with the 2 axes. There is the x-axis, horizontal axis. Okay, it's just a horizontal line. And then we have the y-axis. It's a vertical line. This middle point is where we always originate, hence it's called the origin. So if this was a map of a city, here's the thing. We always start here to get to, say, here, 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 or here. Now today we won't be graphing any points, but specifically we won't be talking about points that lie on the axes, so the x-axis and the y-axis. We'll be doing that the next lesson. We're going to act like we're trying to find our way into here. We won't be using any numbers today. We're just going to be talking about how the movement works, because people tend to get confused with the movement. So let's take a look. Number 1 is the quadrants. They're probably not the most important thing, but you need to know what they are. Quadrant 1 starts here always, and it goes counterclockwise. So quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. It goes counterclockwise, opposite to the movement of a clock. Come back to the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, back to the beginning. So those are the quadrants. It's just a way to say, hey, go to quadrant 1 if you wanted to tell a student that. Find a point in quadrant 1. Okay. Now, each quadrant has 2 coordinates or 2 movements to get there. It has an x coordinate and a y coordinate. Together, they're usually called an ordered pair. Now, why are they called an ordered pair? Well, this is my belief, is you move on the x-axis first. Then you move on the y-axis. So that's the protocol. You move on the x, then you move on the y. Not the other way around. Otherwise, you'll get your point wrong most of the time. So unless it's, let's say, 4, 4, which we're not going to be doing that today. Numbers, I shouldn't have broken my rule. So, first of all, to the right on the x-axis from the origin is positive numbers. To the left is negative numbers. From the origin above, on the vertical axis or the y-axis, is positive numbers. Below is negative numbers, kind of like a thermometer. So if you think of a thermometer, right, plus, minus, but we don't have negative numbers on a thermometer. Your temperature is not going to be negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius, right? So, but your numbers descend as you come down on the thermometer. And some people get confused on the right and the left on the x-axis. But when you're looking at a number line, the right side's positive numbers, the left side's negative numbers. And I should say this quickly. A prerequisite of this lesson is negative and positive, understanding what a negative and positive number is. That's the extent of it. Okay, so let's figure out what the coordinates are to get into this quadrant. And also, you'll hear me say ordered pair. So let's say I want to get into quadrant 1. I want to move there. I'm located here in the city. I want to get to here. I got to move positive on the x-axis and positive on the y-axis to get up there. So I know my 2 numbers have to be positive numbers to get in this into the quadrant 1. Now, if I want to come to quadrant 2, I have to move negative and positive to get in here. So I got to move to the left, which is negative, and up, which is positive. Now, we'll come to quadrant 3. Let's see, we start there. We move on the x-axis, negative, and we go down again, which is negative on the y-axis. So let's look at quadrant 4. We're going to move positive and then negative. So here's something interesting, another pattern if you're looking at it. Positive, positive is on a diagonal to the negative, negative. So this is the easiest quadrant to know. It's quadrant 1 and it's positive, positive. So if you know that, then you know this quadrant, which is diagonal. Okay. Quadrant 3 is diagonal to quadrant 1, and they're the odd quadrants. They're the same signs, positive, positive, negative, negative. That may help you if you're good at patterns. Quadrant 2 and 4, which are the even quadrants, have opposite signs. So this one starts with a negative, positive. This one's a positive, negative. That can be confusing if you're trying to straight memorize. I advise not to memorize. I'm just trying to show you patterns. It's better to understand than to memorize. So it's not necessary to memorize. If you understand the logic, you can find points. Now, I hope that helped. You'll know if it helps when we do the next lesson, when we actually start to graph points. And we'll talk about lots of other things in other lessons about graphing points on a Cartesian plane. So let's review real quickly. First of all, there's 2 dimensions, right? 3 dimensions quickly would be if I wanted a point in space. So I have to move on the floor. There'd be a point on the floor. I got to move left or right, and then move up to find, which is the z, which is 3-dimensional. That's 3 movements to get to a point. Here, we just have 2 movements. That's it, because we're on a flat board here. There is no 3 dimensions. We don't have a point out here. Anyway, somebody might have asked that to me in a class. What's the difference? The horizontal axis is the x-axis. To the right is plus, to the left is negative. And then the y-axis is the vertical axis, and that's plus from the origin above, and the origin below is negative. There are 4 quadrants, and the first quadrant starts on the right if we're looking at the board, and it goes counterclockwise 4 quadrants. Remember, quad means 4. Okay, and all the movement, you always start on the x-axis first with your movement, then the y, and we always start at the origin, because origin and originate. So hopefully those little key things will help you when you go to do graphing in your class. I hope you learned something today. If you have any questions, go to Lee's Way Math Tutoring at Instagram. Send me any messages that you like, good or bad. And also, I would appreciate it if you could subscribe to this YouTube channel. That would help me very much. Thank you. Have a great day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.